I'm J. Rachel Addison.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, the outs, and the retcons of comics' greatest superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Jay and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X-books that come out each week.
And may I say, you look quite elegant this week.
And you as well. It is, so it is apparently our 100th video review, which really snuck up on us.
Yeah, we just realized this morning, and so we tried to think of festive things we could do. Fortunately, we live with someone who has an amazing collection of fancy hats, so yeah, and also a couple other small touches, which are there for the folks who see them.
Yes, deep cuts.
Not that deep.
Well, medium degree cuts. Don't cut yourself medium or deep or whatever, regardless. But yes, so 100. Okay, so we originally started doing these as a Patreon stretch goal. Like if we hit some amount per month, we would do video reviews of the X books that came out each week.
And we set that goal way, way, way too low. We set this one as we'll just put this up there and we'll never hit it. And then we hit it within a week, and it was horrifying and awful, and then we had to do video.
See, I've actually really enjoyed these. Like, there's certainly another thing to do, but for me, I mean, so you're a critic. Like, that's one of the things that you do for a living.
I am mostly a text-based critic, though. I am a writer.
True, but I am not a critic of any sort.
You are now.
That's the thing, I am now. So it's been really cool to get a chance to learn, partially from you and partially from doing it, just how to look at comics from a critical standpoint, how to analyze them not just as I'm going to read a funny book about cool adventure stuff, and more of like looking at the craft of it, looking at the art specifically, which is something that when I first started reading comics, I barely did. I didn't really know how to.
What I have learned is that we need to make an exception to our sponsorship rule, and we have got to find a sunglasses company that'll do in-kind sponsorship, because this is pair number 99.
Oh man, wait, 99, but it's number 100.
Oh no, I'm sorry, this is pair number 100.
There we go.
This is pair number 100.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We go through a lot of sunglasses. I think I may have. Oh no, I haven't repeated a pair, because I've repeated a pair in video, but never in the video reviews.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this is where the bowls full of sunglasses at our parties come from. If you've been to one of those.
Exactly. So anyway, while this is a special occasion in terms of numbers, we're still going to do the same stuff we always do. So I say, let us do that stuff. First up for the week of September 28th is Extraordinary X-Men number 14, written by Jeff Lemire, with art by Victor Ibañez, layouts by Guillermo Mogoran, and colors by J. David Ramos. So yeah, we are sort of continuing the follow-up from the Apocalypse War storyline. So we still have Colossus out there as a horseman. We still have Magic's protege, Sapna, traveling through dimensions and possibly having a destiny as a horrible, horrible person. And we still have Apocalypse imprisoned at X-Haven, being looked at by Forge.
So I have two questions stemming from this issue. The first is whether the World Eater is the thing that we saw try to take over Billy in the Avengers title that he's in.
Oh, in New Avengers, sort of that big Cthulhu thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was also this old Thor storyline, I want to say, called the World Eaters. Apparently that's either a popular name or the World Eater gets around, and I didn't think to look it up, so...
We should double check that. Either way, I'll put it in the notes. The second question is why people let anyone who's not Victor Ibañez draw Storm.
I love Victor Ibañez's work, yeah. Seriously, the way Victor draws both Storm, and I also really love his Ilyana Rasputin.
I like his Forge. I mean, I like his everyone, actually. I was going to say I like his Forge, too, and then I was thinking, well, I also really like his Jean Grey, and I just really love Victor Ibañez's art, and his characters' designs in particular.
Yeah, I mean, he's great at giving characters unique faces and very emotive, expressive faces, but also his body language in this issue I wanted to call out. There's one scene where Storm is possessed by a super being who is using her powers to do bad stuff, and the way Ibañez captures Aurora doing Aurora weather stuff without Aurora's body language makes it very clear what's going on, and just a little bit extra creepy, which is great for a scene like that. So, well done, Ibañez. I kind of wish Ibañez was the lead artist on this. I like Ramos, but Ibañez is rad. Plot-wise, I don't know, I'm finding this book growing on me more and more, both in terms of plot and pacing. It took us a while, as you may remember if you've seen our earlier Extraordinary X-Men reviews, to get a feel for this book. And for me, I think it's what I want the lead X book to be at this point. What do you think?
I think it's not quite as good as I want the lead X book to be, but I think it's again been growing on me. I like all of the stories going on right now. The structuring within issues, I think, still needs work. Ibañez and Lemire are clicking as a team way, way better than I think Ramos and Lemire did.
I think I would agree.
And that's making a really significant difference to my enjoyment of the title. And in general, it's doing better, as I was hoping, following through and following up on storylines than it was originally introducing them along with the premise.
Right. I do like that we have this major bit of fallout from Apocalypse Wars with Colossus still as a horseman, the X-Men trying to save him and having like a multi-pronged way of doing so. One with Nightcrawler and Iceman, and it turns out some of the kids tracking him down. One with Forge analyzing the imprisoned far future Apocalypse, which I love that scene. Like, I love Apocalypse trying to Hannibal Lecter and or Destroyo at Forge, doing like the manipulation from a prison cell, and Forge just having none of it. It's really cool.
Forge with his eye full of stars and his star full of breasts.
Exactly. That would make sense if you'd seen the live action Tick show. And
which you should, because it is delightful.
It really, really is, yeah. But I dig that. And I also especially dig the way Ibañez draws Apocalypse just seething with menace, despite how sort of feeble and emaciated and utterly helpless he is imprisoned here. Like, that's, again, those facial emotions that Ibañez excels at on full display right there. Plot-wise, I'm a little mixed because I like what's going on. I like the structure in general, all the plot lines that are parallel to one another. But we have Storm and Magic going across dimensions looking for Sapna, and that's cool, and it gives Lemire's writing and Ibañez's art a chance to really show off as far as all these awesome different settings. But, like, you know, they spent part of last issue and part of this issue fighting this super team in this ruined, shattered future that maybe Sapna's responsible for, and then they just leave. And I guess it begs the question of what of the things that are happening are actually going somewhere, and what are just sort of detours along the way that mess with the pacing.
Yeah, the montage issue where the kids were running through the ruined future, and we just saw glimpses, that made a lot of sense. That totally worked as a storytelling element. Here, I mean, I assume we're going to pick those guys up to some extent, but yeah, it feels like there are a lot of introduced and too rapidly dropped threads. Hopefully what that means is that they're just points we're going to be coming back to. I'm reluctant to judge too quickly on that.
Exactly. Like, another thing, speaking of things I've learned over the course of doing apparently 100 of these, well, 99 and a half, I guess, a lot, like, I find myself these days when reading modern comics very much thinking about it in terms of what's this like as an issue, but what's this going to be like as a trade? What's this going to be like as a collected story later on? Because that's the way a lot of people read comics these days, and that's the way a lot of them seem to be written. Well,
and we're so used to, because of the podcast, judging and addressing X-Men in that context, talking about it 4 or 5 issues or a story arc at a time.
Absolutely, yeah. The other thing writing-wise I really wanted to call out here is something I did not think would work when the premise and cast of Extraordinary X-Men was announced, which is the dynamic between Old Man Logan and young Jean Grey. Like, it seemed initially creepy and forced, and I gotta say, this whole, like, father-daughter or whatever kind of dynamic they have going on really, really works for me. These are not the Logan and the Jean that we know. These are different versions. They're from different timelines. They've had different experiences, and the dynamic they have rings very different from the Logan-Jean dynamic we're used to, but also very true.
Speaking of Jean, here's a question. Did Jean kind of subtly come out this issue and no one noticed?
Well, apparently I didn't notice if she did.
Oh yeah, there's a panel where Logan is admitting to being in love with Storm, and Jean basically says, well, it's Storm. Anyone would be in love with her.
I mean, I don't know if that was Jean coming out so much as like the whole, would you sleep with David Bowie? Like, regardless of your sexual orientation,
that is true.
Of course you would sleep with David Bowie. Storm's kind of like that. Aurora freaking Monroe, right?
Right.
So anyway.
I bet David Bowie would sleep with her.
Oh god, the universe would annihilate. Do you remember that one time in the Buffy season 9, I think, comic, or maybe it was 8, that time when Buffy and Angel had sex and it birthed a new world?
No, I think that was after I'd already dropped it. Oh,
well, anyway, I think it would be like that. Except Storm and David Bowie, which would be even better.
Well, this took a distinct turn.
So there you go. All of that said, especially that last part, Extraordinary X-Men is really shaping up. I'm excited to see it turn more and more into the book that I would like it to be with every issue. I really hope it can keep that trend up and become as kick-ass as we all hope.
Next up, we have X-Men 92 number 7, written by Chad Bowers and Chris Sims, with art by Alti Firmansyah and colors by Matt Milla. Per usual disclaimers, Chris Sims is my best friend. I'm biased as hell. That said, I enjoyed the hell out of this issue, and man, Alti Firmansyah is so good. I know I say this every week, but Alti Firmansyah is so good. Like, her Agent Brand has become my definitive Agent Brand along with her Wolverine.
Well, and I think we have to give a lot of credit to Matt Milla on colors for this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it looks like a cartoon in a way that I don't think I've ever seen a comic book do. Because a lot of comic adaptations of cartoons, like, X-Men Adventures or whatever, they'll try to ape the visual style, but they can't ape the dynamism of the cartoon. And there's something about Firmansyah and Milla that just have that down.
Well, it's got the dynamism of the cartoon, but it doesn't look like, and animatic or something like that.
Right, it's adapted.
It looks
rather
like
than...
it's adapted, and it's very much a comic book, and the storytelling is very much a comic, but it's got that energy, it's got that aesthetic, and it's got, we were talking about body language, facial expressions. Firmansyah's cartooniness and the expressiveness of her art, and especially combined with Milla's colors, is great. She is juggling an enormous cast at this point. This is she has been throughout this title, but the sheer number of face characters is ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure this book has more speaking characters than the rest of the current X books combined.
It may, but they all look different, and they've all got different body language and facial expressions, and they've all got amazingly awesome hair, and yeah, it's a gorgeous book, and I love the current premise. Now, what's going on narratively right now is that the X-Men were security at Lilapalooza. Along with Lila, they all got teleported way across the galaxy and have encountered a sinister group, not lowercase sinister, group of brood who turn out to themselves be exiled mutants, and basically it's the X-Brood.
The X-Brood. That
Right?
may be one of the more 90s concepts I've ever heard of, and I love it.
I adore it. This is still really 90s feeling, with both the pros and cons of that. Oh, it's also got a brief appearance by a memorable and much beloved character, written in one of the more. Man, I'm trying to think about a way to work around this and
I think we should just say
I
what it
tweeted
is.
it already. It's Adam X.
Adam X, the Extreme.
Adam X, the Extreme, at his most X Gamesy ridiculous Matt Fractiony.
And if ever there was a book for him to finally show back up in after all these years, it's totally X-Men 92. Also hanging out with Random and Maggot and Marrow.
Well, he showed up in Dark Reign.
Kind of.
Briefly, he was in a bar and he was yelling about getting extreme,
But he
which
wasn't.
is what I'm referencing here.
He wasn't covered in blades with a back. Okay, he had a backwards baseball cap. But the point is, the Adam X that we see in this issue is very much the Adam X from the 90s. Maybe amped up a little. Which, to be fair, if you're going to amp up a character, then you should probably amp up Adam X.
Really, I thought he was kind of amped down.
I don't know.
Visually, at least.
Well.
So yeah, it's a fun book. It's light. It feels like a cartoon episode. It's also got appearances. They're pulling a wide net from the 90s at this point. We mentioned more and more face characters, and many of those are recognizable figures. We have X Factor showing up here, too.
Oh, I love the way X Factor's portrayed in this. That's 90s Peter David, black and yellow X Factor, mind you.
Yes. We're going to get back to that actually later after this official review, because that's our panel of the week. Spoilers.
It is.
But yeah, I enjoyed this issue a lot. I know you thought it was kind of fluffy. I thought it was really good fluff. I thought it did not change me as a person, but I heartily enjoyed it.
Yeah, this remains a really fun series. I know it's ending with number 10. It's been announced, but I think there's absolutely a great place for it. And I mean, it might not be to everyone's personal taste, but if you're looking for a good, light, fun, just unexpected X book, that's X-Men 92.
And I would also, again, this book's been officially canceled. It's ending with number 10. And I would love to see this creative team keep working together.
Yeah.
They are such a good match. It's such good, such well synced up voices. And I mean, the writing would work, the writing and art work together in the ways I think that comics do at their best. So that's 2 of 2. Miles, what's our issue of the week?
So our issue of the week, we had a hard time deciding. Neither particularly jumped out, but both were very solid. But I think we're going to go with Extraordinary X-Men this week. It's a very solid issue. It manages to juggle a number of plot lines, I think, pretty admirably. It manages to have some of the flaws we've seen in the past as far as characters not feeling like themselves, resolve bit by bit. It has some phenomenal art by Victor Ibañez, and it makes me really excited to see what happens next. So it's a good sort of workhorse, middle of an arc issue, and I enjoyed it a lot. What about our panel of the week, Jay?
This was likewise really difficult. There were a lot of really good panels in both books, and my pick for this week was all of X-Men 92. Literally all of it. After extensive discussion, we nailed it down to basically 1.5 panels.
Yes.
This one, which isn't the spectacularly designed panel, but is a great spotlight on Firmansyah's X Factor. Mm-hmm. And this second one, which is just a really, really good range of facial expressions.
Right. It's so rare that you see in comics female characters who aren't just sort of supermodeling it up, but seeing Rain both super pissed and also very much a werewolf at the smarmy, glorious douche bro-ness that is Adam X with an amused Polaris in the background. Glorious. So that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here, but think it would be way better without our faces and our amazing hats, you should check out our podcast, Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at explainthexmen.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher. Miles, what have we got for them this week?
So this week we have a very strange and very cool episode. It's the first half of the little-remembered X-Factor story, The Judgment War, which is this bizarre space opera set in a science fiction world that has more world building than most entire series and was never really mentioned again after. But it's a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it, and we hope you do too.
That podcast, these video reviews, and everything at explainthexmen.com, including recaps, visual companions to every episode, and more, are brought to you by our Patreon subscribers. We're an entirely listener-supported project. Those are the folks who help us stay on the air and ad-free. And if you want to join their ranks, you can do that at the link either above or below this video. And again, they are the folks who have brought you 100 issues of this episodes. 100 episodes of us saying issues instead of episode too much.
We do that all the time. It's true. So yes, patrons, thank you. Viewers, thank you. If you've actually managed to see all of these, then I am impressed and terrified. If this is the first one you've ever seen, that's cool too. There are many options.
Usually we don't have hats.
We, sorry to disappoint.
I also want to shout out to Katie Proctor, who's the owner of Books with Pictures. That's where we record these, or started recording them maybe a few months ago.
Something like that.
It opened in August, so... Books with Pictures is a local comic book shop in Portland, Oregon. We link to it at the bottom of every review. It's amazing. Katie's a really good friend of ours. I helped build a lot of the bookshelves in here. And we are really, really happy to have this as the video home base. It's very cool.
Indeed.
And we also, we have a recommendations shelf here.
We do. We have little speech bubbles we put on comics.
And stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is, yeah. So thank you, Katie. Thank you, Books with Pictures.
Yes. In the meantime, we will see you next time for the start of our next 1,000 video reviews.
So that is 2 of 2. Miles, there's a truck going by.
Hello, truck. I hope your night is amazing. Right, well,